Our next presentation is a pre-recorded presentation by Chris McGee. Chris McGee is the Assistant Director of the Raleigh Department of Transportation, where he has worked for 12 years. Prior to joining the City of Raleigh, Chris was a County Maintenance Engineer, District Engineer with North Carolina DOT. Chris is actively involved with the American Public Works Association, and today he is graduating with a Master's of Public Works Administration, so his presentation was pre-recorded. Congratulations go out to Chris.
Good morning or afternoon, depending upon your time zone, and welcome to the 2021 National Pavement Preservation Conference. My name is Chris McGee, and I'm the Assistant Director of Transportation in Raleigh, North Carolina. My background is in accounting, engineering, and public administration. I am also a licensed professional engineer. My professional interests include policy writing, asset management, collaboration, and public finance. Today, I would like to talk about the impact of pavement preservation for municipal governments, how pavement preservation is integral to asset management for pavements, and the process we went through in Raleigh to develop our asset management plan. I will talk about asset management in general and Raleigh's definition for asset management, then walk through Raleigh's process for how we developed our pavement asset management plan. As you are sitting here, you may ask yourself, what's in this for me? At the conclusion of this presentation, you should have a good working definition of asset management, understand how pavement preservation fits into asset management, the importance and impact pavement preservation has on your system and your city, be able to develop an implementation strategy for asset management, and understand how to use asset management to tell a story to those senior managers and elected officials who provide your funding. When we fail to do preservation, our assets deteriorate incrementally at an increasing rate. This truck probably missed a few washes and a few oil changes initially, but then there was a broken light that didn't get repaired, the paint began to fade and eventually rust, and repairs from an accident were overlooked. This truck, with routine maintenance and preservation, could have been this truck. This house should have had shingles and windows replaced and a fresh coat of paint every few years. The lack of preventative maintenance led to water infiltration, rotted wood, and dilapidated structure. There are a couple of options for this house and the truck in the previous slide. We can scrap the truck and demolish the house and replace each with new items, or we can fully rehabilitate both. These options are considerably more expensive than the cost of incremental preservation and preventative maintenance. Our pavements are no different. We must practice pavement preservation to prevent water infiltration and structural damage, or we are left with two very expensive options. We can dig out the old road and build a new structure, or we can perform full depth reclamation and restore the asset. Pavement preservation is critical to any pavement asset management plan. Those of you with a keen eye may notice another culprit detrimental to pavement preservation in this picture. There appears to be the outline of a utility cut. What is asset management? Asset management is a philosophy, a process, and a tool that provides a systematic approach for optimizing the allocation of finite resources in the management of publicly held assets throughout the life cycle of the asset, maximizing the potential value of the asset and protecting the interest of the public. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but the points noted in the presentation are what's important. Asset management is not just a tool or philosophy. It is a discipline that must be followed in order to maintain your assets. Your assets include bridges, sidewalks, equipment, positions, intellectual property, financial assets, and as noted specifically for the purposes of this presentation, pavements. My staff and I have adopted this definition as we proposed an overhaul to our pavement management system and in preparation of an expansion of the asset management for other city assets. Raleigh has made a conscious decision to be proactive in the preservation of our assets. Pavement preservation is a partnership and an obligation. It comes in many forms and is key to cost-effective management. Pavement preservation should be performed by municipal staff and, where practical, available, and affordable, performed by qualified contractors. Some techniques for pavement preservation include chip seals, fog seals, crack pouring, pavement rejuvenators, localized full depth patching, mill and fill, a variety of surface seals, thin lift overlays, and I am sure you can add more to this list. Pavement preservation should also be a part of your larger municipal business model and potentially include other departments. Every intrusion into your pavement asset reduces your ability to preserve that pavement. Design, construction, and repair standards must be established for utilities, developers, and contractors so there is clear understanding of your expectations and that they take certain steps to protect your infrastructure in the course of their work. Some of the treatments mentioned in the previous slide are more expensive than others. Some can be performed by municipal staff and others must be performed by contract. Regardless of the cost of the preservation treatments you choose, all of these options are less expensive than full depth reclamation or remove and replace operations. As I noted earlier, pavements deteriorate at an increasing rate, and the further you go down the curve, the more expensive the options become. The right preservation techniques applied at the right times to the right pavements will extend the life of your pavements as the least expensive option. The green curve is the degradation curve for the original pavement. The blue lines and curves are indicative of various pavement preservation treatments that increase the overall condition of the pavement. These treatments are considerably less expensive than allowing the degradation curve to follow the red line down to the rehabilitation trigger. Treatments in these areas may be 5 to 15 times greater than routine preservation techniques. Some of your pavements may have reached the rehabilitation trigger and be so deteriorated that preservation techniques are no longer an option. All of us probably have at least one street that is too far gone. The good news is you have options. The bad news is those options are expensive. What is important here is that you don't waste preservation dollars that could be used to save a good street on a street that is too far gone. This could potentially be a big challenge with some of your managers, elected officials, and citizens. Asset management in general is about the right treatment for the right pavement at the right time. If a road is in need of reconstruction, then formulate a plan for reconstruction. Use the dollars you have for preservation on streets that are still in good condition. This is an actual graph pulled from our Agile Assets Pavement Management System. The blue bars represent the levels of annual spending for pavement preservation. The orange line is a pavement condition index of 85, which is the target condition for our system. The black line shows our actual pavement condition index for fiscal year 21 as a PCI of 81. Based on the forecast levels of funding, we can show we are underspending on pavement preservation. At current spending levels, our PCI will fall below 75 by fiscal year 25. Raleigh has implemented a pavement management program that is heavy on pavement preservation. We do not completely ignore the roads that are failing so miserably, but there is a different plan for streets that are too far gone. Raleigh will be pursuing a transportation bond that will include full depth reclamation and reconstruction or a number of streets around the city. Many would argue that bonds should not be used for pavement maintenance, and many are happy to get funding regardless of the source. This is somewhat philosophical, but Raleigh has decided to use bond funds for full depth reclamation and reconstruction, considering that our pavement preservation program can keep those streets in good repair for many decades to come. Pavement preservation is not without challenges, and this is as true in the city of Raleigh as it is anywhere. Our current code of ordinances limits the amount of preservation I can do on streets without curb and gutter. Essentially, my only option is patching. Streets without curb and gutter are defined as substandard by ordinance, and patching is all that is allowed on substandard streets. The city of Raleigh maintains about 1,100 centerline miles of streets. Approximately 110 miles, or 10% of the system, does not qualify for pavement preservation, as these streets do not have curb and gutter. This also extends to the many miles of alleys under our jurisdiction. A second challenge for Raleigh and many other municipalities is limited resources. Raleigh has engaged the Kircher Group to assist with the implementation of the Agile Assets Pavement Management System. This system helps optimize pavement preservation dollars. We can optimize spending without constraints, or we can introduce constraints in accordance with council goals and directives, with the understanding that each constraint reduces optimal expenditure and maximum benefit to the system. The third challenge has been switching from a reactive worst first approach to the approach of the right treatment on the right street at the right time. Many managers, city councils, and citizens are not well versed in asset management and pavement preservation, and they often don't understand why we spend money on preservation for a street that looks just fine. Education is key. You must provide education and understanding backed by data. Pavement preservation can be about preserving an individual asset, but we choose to think about and address pavement preservation from a system perspective. Pavement preservation has many significant and positive impacts on our cities and towns. These positive impacts include improved levels of service, optimal use of budget dollars, improved performance metrics, improved aesthetics, and potentially positive benefits to the environment. The more obvious impacts are improved levels of service in terms of better pavement condition ratings, improved ride quality, and a more pleasing appearance of a well-maintained street. These can be felt and seen by managers and citizens alike. Other impacts of pavement preservation include lower cost treatments and increased pavement life, expanding and extending finite budget dollars. Performance metrics provide a basis of comparison between municipal governments and within governments from year to year and with various iterations of pavement preservation efforts. The less obvious impacts may be environmental. While much can be said for keeping a freeway moving to reduce idle time and the concentrations of carbon monoxide and NOx gases, travel time within the municipality is indicative of stop and go traffic at relatively low speeds. Raleigh has contracted with Pavement Technologies to provide application of a pavement rejuvenator. We conducted a pilot project in 2020 for the addition of titanium dioxide to the pavement rejuvenator. The titanium dioxide is a photocatalyst and in the presence of sunlight breaks down and removes carbon monoxide and NOx gases from the air. Subsequent testing has shown significant reduction in these gases as compared to control sections. Pavement preservation is integral to maintaining our public infrastructure and has broad impacts on society. Well-maintained public infrastructure is a foundation of our society, and quality public infrastructure is one of the factors separating developed nations from undeveloped nations. I have a few pictures to show infrastructure from around the world that I would like to share. In the first picture, we see a road in Guatemala. In the second picture, a pedestrian bridge in Honduras. The third picture is of a sidewalk in Nicaragua. The fourth picture is a street in New York City. The fifth picture, a bridge in California. And finally, the sixth picture is a sidewalk in Raleigh, North Carolina. No one is immune to poor asset management. An implementation strategy for asset management is key for success. The Federal Highway Administration has identified a series of steps that can be taken to implement an asset management program. These steps include a review of organizational structure. Does your organizational structure include positions or people capable of understanding and managing an asset program? Next, you must conduct an asset management self-assessment. Is this something you can do internally, or do you need a consultant? Next, identify the asset management policies and goals to be achieved. You may find that your organization does not have a written asset management policy. There may be no defined goals regarding asset management. Prepare an asset management action plan. What steps will you take to get started? Do you have software to manage the data? Do you have the data? Who will collect your data? Then we get to the implementation of the asset management plan, and then a review of the plan and monitor progress of the implementation, and finally, solicit feedback from the stakeholders. As you can see, there are lots of questions to answer, and a written implementation strategy will make the process more manageable. This is a lesson learned. We did not go into this with an implementation strategy. We had developed it on the fly. These are all great steps, but I would recommend a few additional steps. As a public works professional with an interest in pavement preservation, you must first realize that not everyone shares your enthusiasm. As I noted earlier, education is key. Often, elected officials may be there for a 2-year or 4-year term, and either half of their time or a fourth of their time is spent trying to get reelected. They are focused on short-term goals and gains. Asset management is for the long haul. You must sell the benefits. Once you come to the disheartening realization that you may be alone in your quest for well-preserved pavements, or at least outnumbered, you need a game plan. You first need to identify the stakeholders needed to have a successful asset management program. Next, you need to have conversations with various stakeholders to gauge their knowledge. Ask probing questions. Depending upon your access to the city manager and elected officials, you may need to first garner support from a public works, engineering, or transportation director, or even an assistant city manager. The important thing to remember is you need to know your audience and be able to educate them on the benefits of pavement preservation and the long-term benefits and financial implications. Once you have dispensed an education and hopefully attracted some support, you can proceed with the additional steps as outlined by the Federal Highway Administration. Developing an implementation strategy and educating your stakeholders is hard work. However, once you have developed your strategy and have support, now you need to begin implementation. You will need data and a way to manage the data. You may need additional staff depending on the size of your system. There are several companies that offer one-stop shopping who can collect your data, provide storage for your data, software to manage the data, and a host of engineering and GIS support staff. These companies can assist with program development and jumpstart your pavement preservation program. Raleigh chose a different strategy. After considerable review, Raleigh decided to separate the software and data management from the data collection. There were two primary thoughts associated with this strategy. The first was to have a system of checks and balances. We chose an engineering firm with considerable experience in a variety of pavement management software packages to help us choose the best software to meet our goals. As part of the contract to evaluate and select software, Phase 2 was implementation of the software. We developed a data quality management plan and scope to solicit a contractor for data collection. The second reason for separating data management from data collection was to get a more diverse group of professionals in the room to talk about what was possible. What we developed is a very objective pavement management system that depends on crack density, machine learning, and advanced algorithms to determine pavement condition. Human evaluation of the pavement sections is not used for evaluation of pavement condition. We established several control sections where data is collected, evaluated, and meticulously checked by algorithms and human eyes to verify accuracy and repeatability. The system developed is extremely accurate and repeatable. This new system has allowed us to build a pavement preservation program and project our needs for a few years. As additional data is collected and degradation curves are improved, the pavement preservation program will be projected out 5 years. Thank you for your time today. I hope you have a better understanding of the importance of pavement preservation and what it means to your community and the impact you can make on your community with a good program. I hope I have left you with useful information, a good definition of asset management, lessons learned, and how pavement preservation fits. Take the time to get to know your audience and develop your elevator speech to begin the education process. You will need good data and a way to manage that data. Tell your story and educate your stakeholders on the process and the benefits.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.